The rain fell heavily over the city that night, turning the streets into shimmering rivers of neon reflections. Inside a small apartment, Daniel Carter sat alone in the darkness, staring at the glowing screen of his laptop. A single email had destroyed his life. "We regret to inform you that your employment has been terminated effective immediately." Daniel read the sentence again and again, as if hoping the words would somehow change. But they didn't. The company he had spent 7 years building had just fired him, and the person responsible was someone he trusted more than anyone else in the world. His best friend, Marcus Reid. Daniel leaned back in his chair, closing his eyes as memories flooded his mind. 7 years ago, Daniel and Marcus had been nothing more than two ambitious college graduates with a dream. They wanted to build something big, a tech startup that would change the cybersecurity industry. Daniel was the genius behind the technology. Marcus was a charismatic strategist who knew how to attract investors. They worked day and night, surviving on instant noodles and cheap coffee. There were nights when they slept in the office because they couldn't afford rent, but they believed in their dream. And eventually, their dream began to grow. Their startup, Sentinel Guard, became one of the fastest-growing cybersecurity companies in the country. Investors poured in millions. Tech magazines praised their innovation. Everything they had ever wanted was finally within reach. But success has a strange way of revealing people's true nature. And Marcus had changed. At first, the changes were small. He began attending meetings without Daniel. He started making decisions alone. Then came the excuses. Investors want a more professional structure. "Daniel, you're the technical genius, but business leadership is complicated." Daniel trusted him completely. After all, Marcus had been his best friend since university. The man who celebrated his birthdays. The man who stood beside him when his father died. How could someone like that betray him? But the truth revealed itself during a board meeting Daniel would never forget. The conference room was filled with investors and executives. Daniel had walked in confidently, unaware that his entire future was about to collapse. Marcus stood at the head of the table, unusually serious. "Daniel," he said calmly, "we need to talk about leadership restructuring." Daniel frowned slightly. "What do you mean?" One of the investors cleared his throat. "We believe the company needs stronger executive management." Daniel looked around the room, confused. Marcus avoided his eyes. Then the words came. "Daniel will be stepping down as CEO." The sentence felt like a bullet. Daniel laughed nervously. "Okay, what's the joke?" No one laughed. Marcus finally looked at him. "I'm sorry, Dan. This is what's best for the company." Daniel's chest tightened. "You're serious." Marcus nodded. The board voted. Daniel stared at him in disbelief. "You voted too." Marcus didn't respond. That silence said everything. Security escorted Daniel out of the building that same afternoon. 7 years of work, gone in a single hour. But what hurt the most wasn't losing the company. It was losing the brother he thought he had. For months, Daniel disappeared from the public eye. Tech news speculated about the dramatic leadership change at Sentinel Guard. Marcus Reid was now the celebrated CEO. Interviews, magazine covers, billion-dollar valuations. He became the face of the company. Meanwhile, Daniel lived quietly in a small rented apartment. But what the world didn't know was that Daniel had never stopped working. Every night, while the city slept, he sat in front of his computer, writing code, improving, designing, building something far more powerful than Sentinel Guard. Because Daniel understood something Marcus didn't. Marcus knew business. Daniel knew technology. And in the cybersecurity world, technology always wins. 2 years passed, then 3. The industry changed quickly, and Sentinel Guard began facing problems. Data breaches, system vulnerabilities, customers complaining about outdated protection. Marcus tried to cover the cracks with marketing and investor promises. But deep down, he knew something was wrong. What he didn't know was that Daniel had already built the future. His new company was called Aegis Core, and its technology was unlike anything the industry had ever seen. A self-learning cybersecurity system capable of predicting attacks before they happened. When Aegis Core launched publicly, the tech world exploded. Experts called it revolutionary. Companies rushed to sign contracts. Within months, Aegis Corps was valued at over $2 billion. Marcus watched the news in stunned silence. The face on the television screen looked familiar. Daniel Carter. Calm, confident. The same man Marcus had once thrown out of his own company. For the first time in years, Marcus felt fear. But Daniel's revenge had only just begun. Over the next year, Aegis Corps continued growing rapidly. Major corporations switched their security systems from Sentinel Guard to Aegis Corps. Profits at Marcus's company began dropping dramatically. Investors grew nervous. Stock prices fell. And then one morning, Marcus received an email that froze his blood. Acquisition proposal. From Aegis Corps. Marcus stared at the sender's name for a long time. Daniel Carter. The proposal was simple. Aegis Corps wanted to acquire Sentinel Guard. Marcus laughed bitterly. The irony was painful. The man he once betrayed now wanted to buy his company. But Marcus had no choice. Sentinel Guard was drowning financially. If they refused the acquisition, bankruptcy was inevitable. The board forced Marcus to accept negotiations. A week later, Marcus walked into a conference room he once ruled with absolute confidence. But this time, he wasn't the most powerful man in the room. Daniel sat at the opposite side of the table, wearing a simple black suit. Calm, unbothered, Marcus tried to smile. Long time, Dan. Daniel nodded politely. Yes, it has. Marcus leaned forward. So this is revenge? Daniel looked at him thoughtfully. No. Marcus frowned. Then what is it? Daniel replied quietly. Business. Those words hurt more than any insult. Negotiations were short. Daniel already knew the company's weaknesses. Within 2 weeks, the acquisition was finalized. Sentinel Guard officially became a subsidiary of Aegis Corps. Marcus was called into a private meeting with Daniel, the same way Daniel had once been called into that boardroom years ago. Marcus sat across the desk, his confidence completely gone. Daniel placed a document on the table. Marcus looked at it slowly. Termination notice. His hands trembled. You're firing me. Daniel nodded. Marcus laughed softly. I guess I deserve that. Daniel remained silent. Marcus looked up. Tell me something honestly. Daniel waited. Did you plan this all along? Daniel leaned back in his chair. For a long time, I wanted revenge, he admitted. Marcus listened carefully. But then I realized something. What? Daniel's voice was calm. The best revenge isn't destroying someone. Marcus frowned. Then what is it? Daniel looked directly into his eyes. Becoming so successful, they can never touch you again. Marcus lowered his head. For the first time in his life, he felt small, not because Daniel ruined him, but because Daniel had surpassed him in every possible way. Security escorted Marcus out of the building, just like they had once done to Daniel. As Marcus walked into the cold evening air, he finally understood something important. Betrayal creates enemies, but patience creates legends. Upstairs in his new office, Daniel stood by the window watching the city lights flicker in the distance. He felt no anger, no satisfaction, only closure. His revenge had never been about destroying Marcus. It was about proving one thing. Never betray the man who built the future.